We are back at a familiar home, Tom Gears and his Subterranean Studio, Oakland, where a lot of magic happens here from him making AI videos for Harold O, or David Barrett here with Mannequin Planet AI videos, and producing bands like Frightmare. And I'll let you take it over, Tom. What other bands have you produced here at your studios here in Oakland?
I had a band called Devolution that had Jonathan Fenno and Nonscar and my buddy Colin from my Ancient Mariner band. And we did a little EP with them, and we did Will Carroll's death metal band, Hell Hunter. That was a good little 5-song.
They recorded here
yeah,
too?
with
Cool.
Larry and Gil and Satanic Grizzly.
Right on.
That stuff was so fun, and that was one of the first ones that I just did from start to finish. Everything mixed, master, and that it came out great. I was super stoked on that one, and I got a really good review from Will Carroll on Facebook one day out of the blue that I was like, oh, well, that's pretty cool. He's just like, oh, if you want to get something recorded, go to Tom. He's great.
That's how I met you. Is I was on Facebook and Harold O said, hey, my buddy Tom has a studio, and I kind of saw a $40 thing, and I was like, wow, affordable. And meeting you and how knowledgeable you are in music, being, growing up on rock and roll and heavy metal and our love for metal, and being in an Iron Maiden cover band called Ancient Mariner. But you also have this open mind into weirdo stuff like Primus and really obscure type things too.
I was a huge Frank Zappa fan.
Yeah, there you go, the Zappa influence.
I got to the point where I was just like, oh, you can never make anyone like Zappa. So I didn't even try anymore after a while, because if they don't like it, there's no way you're going to force them to like it. I actually had a girl break up with me one time because this was like she was in college in Santa Cruz, and I was living down there in the 90s, and she found my Frank Zappa album, and it had a song called Easy Meat on it, and she was reading the lyrics, and she was like, what the fuck is this? You're an asshole. And fucking bailed. Fucking Frank Zappa. But
right on.
Yeah.
And you and Gary, who you could see Gary Goldsworthy interview, him and Tom grew up in a place called Pacific Grove near Monterey, and we're just rock and roll buddies. I heard in a band since you were 14, and shed some light on your early musical endeavors with Gary and before moving to the Bay Area and making it happen.
Basically, growing up in Pacific Grove down the coast here from San Francisco, Bay Area, a couple hours. And not much to do there when you're a kid. So it's a beautiful place, though, and I totally am thankful that I grew up there, because I see what it's like in many other places, and I fucking was super lucky to have grown up there. And in the 80s, it was like just this great, super safe place. It's still awesome. I've gone down there recently and checked it out. But anyways, Gary lived a couple blocks away from me, and I had all these friends that were totally into metal, so all we were doing is jamming on metal songs, playing Metallica and Ozzy and,
So some cover bands.
We were just playing all of our favorite metal songs. And then all of a sudden, Gary was the guy that I used to go buy weed off of back in the day. And he lived a couple blocks away, and one day he forced me to bring my bass amp down, because he's like, oh, you got a bass amp? Bring it down. So I carried my little TKO PV50 down to his place and started playing with him, and he was like way more into like, blues, Grateful Dead, The Doors, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, and all that kind of stuff. So then I started jamming on that, and I really like that stuff a lot. So
right on.
I've just always been into variety and not playing the same thing over and over and over again, and he was accomplished because he played piano, guitar, and sang, and multi-instrumentalist, definitely was inspiring and got me to play out all the time. And we had a couple of bands growing up, and just
name
playing out.
So name the original bands you've been part of. I know I have to say an inspiration for me and Mannequin Planet were the Gun and Doll Show.
Yeah.
And I later found out that Tom did a stint with Killian and the Gun and Doll Show, which I think are probably one of the greatest San Francisco bands. And let me tell you, if they would have got more exposure, they could have been the hottest national worldwide act going. Cirque du Chevrolet. They kind of had girls in costume acting out parts while the band played live. It was like the girl.
They also said a battle of the sexes.
The battle of the sexes. That's what their motto.
Battle of the sexes.
There you go. Rock and roll battle of the sexes.
Yeah, Killian was a great writer, prolific, totally rocker, and and then we had 3 female vocalists when I was in the band, and every song, whatever the song was about, there was costume changes, and we also would always invite. He would have these the Devilettes and some of these other
Nice.
Burlesque dancing troops that were super popular back then would come, and they would be dancing. So we'd have like fucking a full eye candy spectacle going on, and then we were a really good band too, and the songs were crazy. I mean, they were, you know, Lucy in the lab, and I got the results, and she's like killing her husband, and they're wearing lab coats. And then there's a song about the first woman in the NFL, the first quarterback with back.
Yeah,
and
Killian's in the football garb, and the girls
the
are.
Girls are in the football
and
garb.
they're playing this stuff out. So look on YouTube for Gun and Doll shows live. You'll see these clips. You also played in my favorite clown band from the Bay Area for a little hot minute called Goofer Man.
Oh yeah, I went down to New Orleans and sat in with them because their bass player couldn't make some gig, and I just happened to be going to Jazz Fest anyway. So they're like, "Oh, come and sit in with us." That was pretty cool.
So any other bands originals before your stint with Blind Illusion?
Yeah, of course. You know, I played in this band called Dope Sick a long time ago in the early 2000s, and that was with Adam Albright. He was in Skin Lab and some of these heavy bands back that were rehearsing out at Oakland by 12th Street, I guess East 12th, I think it was. And in the same place where we rehearsed, it had Exodus and Skin Lab were both in that spot, and Paul Bailoff was living there in the studio, you know, so we'd always see him, and he always would let us open up for them. So we got to open up for Exodus at Bourbon Street and the Pound, and
oh, nice.
And Skin Lab took us out on a little mini tour, and we got to play Texas. So I got the joy of driving to Houston, Texas, straight from the East Bay, and I was like, all right, cool. When we got to El Paso, I'm like, cool, Texas, we're almost there.
Yeah.
Not realizing that it's the same distance, so we were like halfway there. It took us like 36 hours to get there.
Well, you did something many bands don't do, is cross state lines or even go worldwide to play. And so Tom, he joins Blind Illusion, and the lineup at the time was like Bay Area All-Stars. Andy formerly of Death Angel on drums.
Well, when I first started, it was Eric Cruz on drums.
Okay, Eric Cruz, and then Andy jumped in.
And he was in Dope Sick.
And okay, there's the connection. We love these stories of Bay Area musical chairs. We're always covering the history of the Bay Area. And
I actually met Eric playing in a band that was like a lesbian folk act.
Oh, wow.
With a guitar player, keyboards, and he was playing drums, and I was playing my fretless. And then he was the one that was like, took me out to his car, and he's like, oh, you got to hear this band, Dope Sick, demo that they had done, and it was super heavy, and it's all been back into the metal world after that.
Cool. And then the lineup continuing with, the CD that you recorded here, I want to say.
That was Wrath of the Gods.
Wrath of the Gods with Mark Biederman, longtime Blind Illusion singer, guitar player. Tom Gears on bass and production and songwriting, and Doug Piercy from Heathen, and then went from to Andy joined up from formerly Death Angel. And you guys did obviously some local shows, and you went over to Europe. Can you give me the good on playing Europe?
Basically, it was during the pandemic. And
was that your first time playing over in Europe?
Yeah, definitely.
Right on.
So basically, Doug Piercy hit me up out of the blue, and I was driving across the bridge, and he's like, hey, it's Doug Piercy, you know who I am? And I'm like, no. He's like, oh, well, basically, I'm somebody.
Anvil Chorus,
I'm from this band, Anvil Chorus,
Heathen.
and he told me who he was. And then he was like, well, we got this band with Blind Illusion. It could crash and burn, or it could be really good. And we're going over to Germany, and Harold can't do it, because Harold Leumann was the one that started Blind Illusion back up. And after he saw Biederman busking somewhere like Rasputin Records or something like that over in the East Bay, and he was like, you got to start doing this band again. So he roped that together with Eric and Biederman, and then when Harold couldn't make the tour, they called me up, and I was like, hell yeah, I want to go. So we ended up doing that, and after that we ended up doing 2 more tours with that lineup, and then the pandemic hit, and we decided to record the album because we had built out a recording studio here at my place. That was our pandemic project, probably like 10 million other people, but it's been really fun for me because I really love doing it, and I totally rabbit hole it and just want to be down here all the time. So.